I am so excited right now. We have a very special guest who's joining us via Skype. Amy Gravino is with us, and she is a college coach. Now, I'm going to have her explain exactly what the term is. Amy, are you with us?
I am. I'm here. Thank you for having me, Shannon. I really appreciate it.
I'm so thrilled that you're here with us today. Tell us what the actual term is, because you're a certified. What what is it?
Well, I'm probably certifiable in several different ways, but
We all are. We all are. Love it when people have a sense of humor. So, but what is the term so that parents who are watching, who are getting ready to send their young people off to college, know what to look for?
well, I call myself a college coach for students with high functioning autism and Asperger syndrome. It means that I provide not only academic assistance but also life skill support to students on the spectrum who are looking to enroll in college, typically four-year college, but also students who are going to two-year schools or community colleges. I'm just my job is to make myself obsolete, to essentially give them the skills that they need to function on a college campus, and then that they don't need me anymore eventually. That's the goal.
Well, I have to say, I love that. You're trying to work yourself out of a job. That's a wonderful thing. And tell us, Amy, do you just work locally, or do you also work with students long distance? How does this work?
Well, I started my business about a year ago when I was still in graduate school. I was getting my master's degree in ABA, and I have an office in Fairfield, New Jersey. That's where I'm physically based. But I have been entertaining the idea of working with students long distance. With any client, whether they would be locally based or long distance, I would have to do an initial assessment to first determine that I'm the right person to be helping them, because the last thing I want to do is waste their time and waste my time if I'm not the right person to give them the help that they need. So an initial assessment would come first, and whether that would be in person or perhaps over Skype, it would be determined. And then after that, then we would begin to develop a plan.
Okay. And what kinds of things with your clients have you been able to work on that have been really helpful to them?
Well, I'm going to be very honest with you, Shannon. I haven't really had many clients thus far because I'm new at this. I've never run my own business before, obviously, and it's been a little challenging to find people because people want someone who has experience, but I can't get experience if I don't have clients, and so it's just kind of catch-22.
Well, I love the fact that you're here and that we can let people know about you, because there are people who are looking for you. And so let's talk a little bit in terms of what kinds of services are on your list of things that you think would be beneficial to a student about to be going to college.
Well, certainly, I can do campus walk-arounds, which would mean that I could accompany them to the classrooms that they'll be in, helping them to, figure out how they would address a professor, what they would do in different social contexts. Because it's not just about sitting in the office and going through a list of things. It's really about going into the natural environment and saying, okay, this is what you might encounter here, and how will you handle it? Because I know when I was looking for colleges, when my mother was trying to help me find a college, and my father, these types of services just didn't exist at that point. This was in 2001. And I think if someone like me had been around back then, it would have been tremendously helpful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's go back a little bit to the fact that you have an area of expertise in this particular subject that is unique. And we had an opportunity to talk right before we went on the air. In your bio, you list that you were given an Asperger syndrome diagnosis when you were a young child. How old were you when you were diagnosed?
I was 10 years old, almost 11.
And I mentioned that we had Alex Plank on yesterday, and it's just kismet that we had this opportunity to have both of you on. And right before we came on the air, I said to you, Amy, I saw that this is how you identify yourself in your biography. Is it okay to talk about on the air? And you had a beautiful response. Would you share with our viewers what you said?
Absolutely. Well, I said that in the wake of the Newtown, Connecticut shootings, there's this climate of fear that started to acclimate because the shooter supposedly had Asperger syndrome. And I know that I have felt that fear myself. But if I am to be the person that I say that I am, which is a self-advocate, a consultant, a public speaker, someone who advocates for people with Asperger syndrome, then I have to be able to say that I have Asperger syndrome. I have to push past that fear and put myself out there, because I am the one who's going to fight for people who can't fight for themselves. So I am proud to say that I have Asperger syndrome.
Which is wonderful, and I love you said, we can't go backward at this point, and we're not going to take steps back, and I appreciate that, and I love that you're here today to put a proper face on, and we had Alex yesterday, and the truth of the matter is that there is no one face of Asperger's, and I think that's a message for everybody to have. But it makes you uniquely qualified, Amy, to know how to help a student who is on the spectrum with making that transition to college. There are things that you will know and know how to help them to negotiate that other people would not know. Isn't that true?
That's very true. And I think not only is my perspective unique in that I'm on the spectrum, but I'm also a woman on the spectrum. And as we might know, 3 to 4 times as many males and females are diagnosed as having Asperger's and autism. And so I have a very unique perspective in that regard, with the experiences that come along with being a girl on the spectrum, because Asperger's and autism don't look the same necessarily on a girl as they do on a boy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when I meet parents who have a daughter on the spectrum, because I have a son on the spectrum, and I'm always mindful of the fact that as few and far between as it seemed like the services might have been for my son, it seems like the gap is much bigger for girls, because not only are the services not there, but when the services are, they go and tell me if I'm exaggerating this, but it seems like they go and there's 10 boys in the room and 1 girl.
No, I think that's very true. I think that, well, first of all, the diagnostic criteria that were developed for Asperger's were developed observing boys, not girls.
I agree.
And that's it's not caught often. It's misdiagnosed or underdiagnosed or not diagnosed at all. And it's true. Even as an adult, I've gone to support group meetings, and there are vastly more men in these support group meetings than women. And I know a lot of women on the spectrum don't necessarily feel comfortable opening up and talking about certain aspects of their life in front of these men. From my own experience, I remember going to a group years ago, and they either hit on me or they treated me like I was an alien, and I wasn't there for either of those things.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. A fresh perspective on that. And so I have to say, I'm excited for your clients and your would-be clients, Amy, because what a wonderful opportunity to have a role model who gets it and who has made such huge progress. You mentioned that you were in graduate school studying ABA.
Yes.
I think that that's remarkable. I absolutely love that. Did you have the benefit of ABA when you were growing up?
No, I did not. I didn't even know what ABA was probably till college. I think was the first time I ever heard about it. I didn't really have any kind of early intervention services. I mean, I remember going to social skills groups, and I remember going to biofeedback, to speech classes, but nothing that was really specifically made for a person with Asperger's, because there were other kids in some of these settings who had other difficulties, other things going on with them that were not autism, were not Asperger's. So no, I definitely did not have the benefits of ABA. And after I got past the misconceptions about ABA, because all I had thought ABA was electroshock therapy, and then I learned about what it really is about, and I thought this is awesome, and I need to do this. And so I jumped into grad school, and I knew from the start I wanted to work with adolescents and adults, because even a lot of my classmates, they all were teachers, but with little kids. And I knew that there was a need that was not being met. And so
absolutely.
My master's thesis actually involved, because we had to design and run our own study, I taught adult men with Asperger's how to ask someone on a date.
I love it. I love that. That's wonderful. And I'm imagining that you had some great success.
I did. Well, I did. I had 2 participants, and one of them I heard from about a month after the study, and he told me he'd used the skills he learned to get a girl's phone number, and then she later became his girlfriend.
Very nice. I gotta say, I love that you're a college coach, and I think there is such a need, and I'm so excited that you're doing that. But I also think you could probably set up a hotline number where young adults could call in and say, "Here's the question that I have about what do I do in this circumstance," and I bet you'd be very busy.
Oh, I bet you're right. Well, I also, one thing I talk about that a lot of people don't is dating and sexuality issues. I'm very, very open and candid. I'm kind of the Dr. Ruth of the Aspie world.
There you go.
And I'm, because these are things that need to be discussed. And so many people,
Absolutely.
I call it the blushing cheek phase. I say to parents, you have to get past the blushing cheeks. You have to be able to discuss this because your kids are going to have questions, neurotypical or Aspie, and you have to be able to answer them. And a lot of people have a hard time enough with all the other aspects related to Asperger's and autism, but I'm willing to discuss those things frankly and honestly. And I'm actually writing a book at the moment.
Oh, good.
And it's called The Naughty Audie, and it's a memoir. It's about my experiences with dating and relationships, and I'm sort of painting myself as the Sarah Jessica Parker, the Carrie Bradshaw of the Aspie world, like kind of Sex in the City. It's a very forthright telling of these things because that perspective is needed. As I said before, the perspective of a single woman is not one that's often heard.
Well, it sounds fascinating, and we'll have to have you back on when your book is done and out, so we can let people know about it. But right now, I wanna be able to give people a way to get a hold of you. And so, where would you like them to go if they want more information about your services and helping? As you said, to work your way out of a job as a college coach. So, where can they find you, Amy?
They can find me on my website at www.amygravino.com. And I can be reached via email at amy@amygravino.com. Very easy to remember.
And we've got that up on the screen now for people so that they can see it. I think it's really remarkable what you're doing. I think you're a wonderful role model, Amy. And I can think of a lot of parents who have said, I'm concerned about this. I want my child to make the transition to college. Not really sure how this is going to work. Who could use your services?
Well, I'll put it to you this way, Shannon. Many years ago, there were people in the school district who told my parents that I'd never go to high school, let alone go to college, and not to bother spending money on me going to college. And last year, in April, I stood on the floor of the United Nations speaking to the people in the United Nations on a panel of other autism experts. And that's not something that I think anybody ever thought that I would be able to do. And if I can do that, if I can achieve that, then other people on the spectrum can achieve great things too. And that's what I'm here to do, is help them do that.
Well, that's wonderful. One last question for you, Amy. What do you think the secret to your success is? Is there one thing that you were able to do that helped you to be able to achieve what you've achieved?
Well, it's kind of a combination of things. It's like a melting pot of things that came together. Part of it is building confidence in myself. When I graduated high school, I had zero self-esteem at all because of being picked on by my peers, and I had to build myself up kind of from the ground up. So it was a combination of slowly building confidence in myself and then having a support system that was tremendous. My parents, who have been there for me through so much, who still support me now with everything that I'm doing, and who want to see me succeed. And I would say it was also just dumb luck in a lot. And people don't like to say that, but you know what? Luck counts for something. I mean, I've really been very fortunate with the opportunities that have come my way. I've had so many amazing doors open to me.
Well, I'm somebody who does believe in luck, but I also believe, I have a friend who has a pillow that on it says, the harder I worked, the luckier I got. So
Yes.
I think there was a lot of hard work in there too, Amy.
Yes, definitely. A tremendous amount of hard work. The hard work in the beginning was just to survive, just to be alive, because I was suicidal for many years. And so the hard work was just to keep myself tethered to this planet. And then once I managed to do that, then the hard work took on other forms. And I'm still working hard to this day. Now I'm trying to achieve independence and self-sufficiency. I don't fully pay all my own bills yet because I don't have a full-time job. So my parents have been helping me, and that's my next goal, is to become self-sufficient.
Well, and I feel confident that you will, and I think you found a niche that is really wonderful, and I can't let it go because you said that at one point that you were suicidal. Amy, we have a lot of people who come on this show and talk about bullying. Did it have anything to do with bullying, or was it other issues?
Oh, it was all the bullying. It was absolutely being in school and being picked on. It was a running battle between which was worse, being made fun of or being ignored. Because if I was being made fun of, at least the kids were taking the time to acknowledge my existence. But being ignored, it was like I wasn't even there. And it was just, I hated myself so deeply. I couldn't look in the mirror because I hated everything I saw in it. And I felt that there was no escape. It literally felt like high school was going to go on forever, that my entire life was going to be like high school. And and the thought of that made me despair so greatly.
And for parents who are listening to you say these things, I mean, it just like is devastating to us to hear you say those things. What would you say to parents to do to help a child in high school, to help them to get through that?
Well, I'd say first to not take it personally if your child won't necessarily respond to you, because we're going through a whole lot of things. We're a mess. We're going through puberty. We're going through hormone changes, and we're kind of shut down in our own ways. And it's not a reflection on you or that we hate you. Like we might even say I hate you, but we don't hate you. We hate what we're feeling, and we're taking it out on you. And so you have to not take it personally first and foremost. And then I'd say, just be there. Just as long as your child knows that you are there for him or her unconditionally, that will make a huge amount of difference. I had tremendous clashes with my father when I was in high school, and I never fully, I mean, he was there physically in terms of driving me to things I had to go to and things like that, but emotionally, he just, but he was dealing with his own issues that I didn't even realize on top of everything. So but I knew my mother was always there for me, and just I would say just listen to them, even when they're not necessarily saying anything. They're still saying something, and you have to pay attention in order to know what it is. So.
Well, Amy, you're a remarkable, beautiful, and articulate and intelligent young woman, and we thank you so much for being here. I think at some point in 2013, we're talking about doing a bullying symposium, and I hope that you'll be willing to come back and talk more with us about that topic, because it's something that we all need to become more aware of so that we can make some change for our young kids who are in school right now.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree. And I'd be very, very happy to come back for the symposium.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. And again, people can find you www.amygravino.com. And
Yes.
if you have a young student who's getting ready to go to college, Amy would be a great choice to have for a coach to help make that transition happen. Amy, I hope that you have a wonderful week, and thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you, Shannon. You as well. Hope you have a wonderful holiday.
You too. Take care.
You too.